Polycarp Igathe's exit as the Deputy Governor of Nairobi County now. We're asking, does the exit of Igathe have any impact on the governance of Mike Sonko? Now, before our guests answer that question, we would want you to listen in to what a number of you had to say on this.
According to their promises, they promised for a clean city for Nairobi, affordable housing, and many other promises that they made. But looking at Sonko, Sonko is a flamboyant leader. He's good at launching his wealth, but going to the ground, performing, he cannot do that.
Ukiangalia kama barabara ya Tomboya Street, kutoka chini mpaka mwisho, utapata ni mashimo kila mahali. Na hii Nairobi is the hub of Africa.
Itakuwa vingumu sana kufanya kazi na mtu ambaye uliletewa with the conditions. Kwa hivyo yeye aketi chini na washauri wake watafute mtu ambaye wanaelewana na mwenye atakuja kwa table with the conditions.
All right, we will be getting back to it. But first, I want us to listen in to Governor Mike Sonko during the presidential debate, what he said about governing Nairobi County.
Some of the duties I'll be delegating to my deputy, who is a technocrat, who understands some of these problems. I will be in charge of the political administration side of running the county affairs.
All right, I'll come to you, gentlemen. There we have Mike Sonko saying he will delegate some of the issues to the technocrat who is Polycarp Igathe. And then on this other hand, we have Nairobians saying we need things to happen. We know there's issues of potholes, garbage, disposal in the county. What is next for Nairobi? Michael.
Nairobi is in a crossroad. Mm-hmm. It is in a precarious situation. We've seen Nairobi as the only city that has demonstrated very well that they cannot clear the garbage on the street. In fact, if anything, when Honorable Raila and his NASA crew were going to Jacaranda ground, the garbage that is supposed to be cleared off the street was actually dumped on the very ground that was not supposed to be dumped by the very city council, unfortunately. Let me now zero into why people go into elected position in a country like Kenya. In many countries in the world, people go into politics to serve the people. Unfortunately, in Kenya, in many, many circumstances, people go into politics for three things. One, they go to politics for power. They want to be influential. They want to have the bodyguards around. Mm-hmm. They want to protect their wealth. They want to be felt around. Mm-hmm. The second thing why most people go into politics in this country is interest. They want to be in charge of the tenders. They want to employ people, from either his cronies or other places, and influence decisions that are being made and rub shoulders with who is who. And this third thing that happens, main reason why people go into power is, well, I've made money. What else do I need? I need, to be recognized in the society. Yes. I need to be called honorable. Mm-hmm. Remember, in those three circumstances, none is appearing that is showing that they are going to serve the people. And most cases in this country, we elect people that have no credentials, mm-hmm. have no past history of governance, has no, serious, consistency in workplace, other than making money, being an entrepreneur and making a lot of money and coming out. And some of them have been known even to have been drug lords in some other places, but were easily elected into their offices. Despite the fact that they had tainted background, they've been elected into their offices. We know that some of them have even been elected governors, even after working in some ministries that were hugely compromised in terms of corruption. And you can see where we are as a country. We are electing people not based on the values, not based on their experience, not based on the deliverables, but based on popularity and party agenda. And And then we sit into those offices, and then we have no idea how to do it. I'm not saying that's where we are in Nairobi, but what happened in Nairobi is known to all of us, is that it is a negotiated arrangement between the governor and the deputy governor. And I don't think Sonko and El-Adde were friends before, and so they decided that, look, we want to sit in here and be able to run. You're a technocrat, I am just a flamboyant politician, and I'm going to deliver this, and then you're going to just run the city. Now, that might have been the the arrangement, on the background, and thinking that this is going to work. It has never worked. We are seeing the same problem in Kiambu, the governor and the deputy governor. We've seen the same problem in Kisumu, where Ruth Odinga and Ranguma, the former governor, did not work together. We saw, we are now seeing a situation where the deputy governor resigns because he does not win the trust. But I also want to allude to the, some narratives that perhaps El-Adde did not really make good judgment on where it was going to.
All right.
Simply because this was an arrangement that was done outside his purview as well as the governor's purview, and they thought they would marry. Now remember that the sole responsibility of running the county stands squarely by law in the hands of the governor, and with executive that it is his mandate to choose and to be passed in the county assembly, but everything the back stops with the governor and none of the deputy governor. The moment you have a deputy governor that thinks that he can run the administrative duties because he's a technocrat, as Sonko was mentioning, he was cheating the public, because the law does not allow the deputy governor to do that. And it's just a matter of time before he realizes that, oh, I'm supposed to be employing, but my deputy seems to be doing this. I'm supposed to be giving tenders, and my deputy is doing this. And that is the crossroad where Nairobi is, that we have a politician that actually acknowledges that he's not able to run the county, other than his deputy helping, and now that his deputy is gone, what is it for Nairobi?
All right, we've seen leaders like Johnson Sakaja, Senator Sakaja, coming out and saying the issue is regrettable. He should have sought other measures. What other options did he have, Professor?
Now, first and foremost, to go back to the question of why people pair up.
Yeah.
People can pair up because they are friends and they become governor and deputy governor. But the Nairobi case was very well thought out, because I think it's Jubilee's showpiece in terms of success in delivery. And Jubilee cannot transform the country without transforming Nairobi. Michael Sonko, to those who know him very well, is a very able person. He's a very good manager of his businesses and so on, other places. He has managed Makandara, has been a key fellow. But of course, what was needed is what you found in Reagan and George Bush Sr. That George Bush Sr. was, a child of bureaucracy all the way. And he was very, very adept in knowing. Reagan was a filmmaker or an actor, very good in calming the nation, in articulating issues. But there must be somebody who picks the details. And I think El-Adde was to pick the details of Sonko. Now, that role is still necessary. That role is still necessary in Kiambu, where the governor and the deputy at one point had issues. That role was necessary between Ruth Odinga, as it has been mentioned to my colleague in Laguma. And it's going to be a continuous demand in our side. And when you look at the national level, the whole role of a cabinet minister or a cabinet secretary and a principal secretary in the ministries, one as a technocrat, the other one as a more policy-oriented person, is still a principle we are trying to experiment with. Therefore, the need for Sonko and El-Adde to hang on together, despite whatever misunderstanding might be there, is going to be the overarching issue. And as you have mentioned or asked, I think somebody like, Senator Sakaja, people like Moses Kuria, and others have already started off the process to bring the two together. El-Adde was not hard-picked. That I can say for a fact. I can take this to the bank. He was not hard-picked. He was consulted, not by Sonko alone, but by others of his friends and what you can call his constituency.
Yes.
And he accepted. There were about 8 or so others who wanted that position, who were also consulted. But the politics being the game of obeying and finding who is better than who, I think Igathe came up head and shoulder above his other competitors. And Sonko chose him not under duress or coercion. This I can tell you, not under duress or coercion. And when he did it, he was happy.
All right.
Now, I think he'll be happy to have Igathe convinced that he is a deputy.
Okay.
He's not the governor of Nairobi. His turn is coming. And therefore, if he's not given the whole administration to learn, and Sonko want to have a say in all the administration, it is a legitimate desire by Sonko to have his hands-on administration going on.
All right.
At the same time, Igathe must find his niche and understand that they belong to the same party, and therefore you cannot resign willy-nilly and get the support of the constituency.
All
I'm
right.
talking from a political perspective.
Okay.
In a corporation, you can resign like that, but in politics, you don't resign.
Ogola, you look like you want to comment on that.
I disagree with Prof. First of all, if Igathe is watching, I want to, on behalf of all Kenyans, to apologize to Igathe.
Yes.
You know, the Kenya's shock reaction following his resignation is evidence of our moral bankruptcy. We have always wanted leaders who can be firm, leaders of integrity, who can say when things are not going right, I'd rather leave. Is that not what Kenyans have always wanted? I think Igathe has passed the test of morality, the test of integrity, and the test of honesty. He should be celebrated, and Governor Sonko should find out what is it that triggered his resignation and try to renovate his governance technique. But to try and persuade him to return, Igathe to return to the county government, is effectively to demoralize him for the things, to vilify him for the things he stands for. You know, in Kenya, this man was a successful corporate leader.
Yes.
He resigned from employment to take up a job he didn't need because he believed he could deliver. He is saying, instead of sitting here for 5 years, earning salary, you know, for doing nothing, I'd rather just quit, make space, let the governor find someone suitable that they can work with. Instead of celebrating that, Kenyans are building conspiracy theories, and Prof is leading us in vilifying Igathe, instead of capturing the purity of thought, the purity and clarity of mind, and the freshness that Igathe brings to our politics. I think the work of Sonko need not to know everything, and he need not to apologize, because what we need in terms of leadership is a visionary and firm leader. And he should be given bureaucrats who can translate the vision into actionable actionable programs or activities that can be implemented with his overall supervision and coordination.
Okay.
That is why we have bureaucrats. So I don't think it's necessary, although it would be desirable in terms of managing the affairs of the county, that you should have both intellectual, demonstrable capacity to preside over the affairs, but certainly you can't govern alone. You will need technocrats around you, and that is why CECs, the county executive committee members, should be people who are competent and capable.
Yes.
The deputy, for all instances like Igathe, I think Nairobi was a perfect match between a politician who was visionary and a real technocrat. If he's saying that he is unable to deliver what he thought he wanted to deliver, and I think if that is the way to go for all Kenyans, and I would like to urge all deputy governors, indeed governors, and all state officers, if you feel you are in a position where you cannot deliver the mandate for which you are recruited to deliver, instead of sitting there piling pressure and adding salaries grudgingly, you'd rather be brave enough, say, I call it a day, because what I thought I wanted to deliver, I can, instead of, I think this year, Mashujaa Day, I want to see Igathe's name there being celebrated as a real Shujaa, and a representation of the future where you're going.
Prof, you seem like you want to respond.
Yeah, my name was mentioned, and therefore I'm right to reply. I think I wouldn't want to be depicted as verifying Igathe. Igathe is a friend of mine.
Yes.
In fact, I think we come from the same ancestral area, so we understand each other, and we've done a lot together. So I wouldn't really want to verify. I'm talking about a matter of principle. the principle that operates in the business world and in places where I am working. If I feel I'm morally or otherwise compromised, I can resign. That is not really a political, a decision that needs to be judged from a political perspective. But in politics, you resign out of what you can call scandals or moral, infringements. And if this is the case he stated as to why he's resigning, that would have been understood. But if you have read his statement, and he said he did not win the trust of the governor to be allowed to administer. Now, in that particular case, then there are issues, and that's why we're saying the currency of politics, where Sonko and Igathe are now, and very different from where Igathe was in Shell. The currency of politics is not trust.
Okay.
It is interests, shared interests. And therefore, I think it is still the interest of Jubilee Party to see Igathe and Sonko working together.
All right, Michael.
He will still be a Suja because he's a man. He showed that he has some, metal.
Okay.
And that is important.
Michael, you seem like you want to respond before we move on.
Unfortunately, that word interest is what triggers my just insanity.
Okay.
Because interest to be dewaped to vote for something even if you don't believe in it, interest to steal as a team, interest to be bribed, interest to change the laws regardless of whether it is good for the common mwananchi or not. That is what is driving this country, as Prof is saying. He's saying, look, its interest is not morality, it's not integrity. It is interest because if it belongs to the party and this is what the party agrees on, we don't care what others think about. It is the party, and therefore you have to do. I think this country, as Steve has said, we really need to look for leaders that will not be able to dip their fingers so deep to an extent where they have no fingers anymore because they were involved in things they really didn't want to do in the interest of serving others. Okay. Many men and women that are elected into the Senate, into the, in Parliament, or even in the local assembly, today they don't go there to serve people, as I said earlier. They go there to, what is it for me? What is it for my pocket? You remember NCIC just the other day deciding to slash the salaries of parliamentarians. When they came back, the first thing that they did, Parliamentary Service Commission did, is they went to court, and within a short time, today they have their 5 million, grant for their cars, and many other things that are back into play. What we are saying is, I think we need to say, what was the trust that Igathe mentioned in his resignation? Is it a pre-agreement that was done prior to that, an MOU that was signed, and therefore it was supposed to have his role, even though outside the constitutional mandate that is there, have his role as this is 1, 2, 3 that you'll be doing. Me, I'll just be a guy who goes out there and make it nice and tell people we're doing well. Is it the work that he was supposed to do that is unable to do to the Nairobians? Is it the electricity? And I think there was a clip where he said he met one of the CEOs of Shell and he told him a few things, just 5 things, as Igathe was mentioning. He said, let Nairobi be lit. Garbage be collected. Let water be on the, on every tap. These are the things that the Nairobians are talking about up to today. Now, over 100 years into their sit.
100 days.
100 days.
Yes.
I mean, sorry for that. 100 days. You can't say that they've done anything. If anything, they're struggling even to collect. And now they're passing blames. Oh, it is about GG pay, or tender, or it's about the inherited workforce, a blotted workforce, or it is about the companies that were doing garbage collection. No, if you are governor and you're a deputy governor, and these are the things you promise people that we will not see anymore in your administration, and after more than 100 days, none of it, we've not even seen a bit of it that has been improved, that you can say we've done this within 100 days. If Igathe is saying, if over 100 days I have not been able to implement anything as we perhaps agreed on, then why do I need to continue staying here? Yes. I think what Igathe need to do for Kenyans is to say, look, these are the mandates that I was given agreed upon that I will execute in this county. And we agreed on principle as gentlemen that he will do this and I will do this, but I've not been able to do this for this reason and this reason and this reason. And this country will learn that if you can't do a job, if you are unable to do what has been given to you as a responsibility, the best you can do is move away and pave a way for somebody else to do it. Maybe this will be a moment for the governor to open his eyes and say, look, if I'm starting to have troubles here, and remember that these things have been in social media, it's not a surprise to us who have been reading a lot of these things, and we knew that some, at one point, they were not even talking, they were not even, they were shouting at one another at one point. That cannot be tolerated. If you can't work and you can't deliver, it is only prudent for you to pave way so that others know that you are a man of great integrity. You are a man that believes in a gentleman's agreement that if it's not done, you will pave way. And so that the politicians in this country can know that this job that they're holding is not about life and death.
All right. We need to move on to other matters. And NASA is also another issue that is, stirring up conversation. Raila is set today to set a meeting with the core principal and talk about the battle suspicions in NASA. Of course, some of the issues, if you just allow me to refer, the list of burning issue, Wiper demands a slot in PSC, claiming it was shortchanged by ANC and Ford Kenya. ODM MP claims Kalonzo and Wetangula not keen on Raila swearing in. Maybe we can just comment on that before we move on. Professor.
I think first and foremost, my position on the swearing in has been very clear, and I really want to reiterate that. Yes. I think that is a non-debate in this republic. The swearing in is a non-debate. I can give space to the issue of the dialogue, whatever direction it takes. But the issue of swearing in is a non-debate because it's a criminal issue.
Okay.
It's a morally abhorrent issue because Article 141 of the Constitution lays out how a president is sworn and how he assumes office or ascends to office. I cannot see what integrity, moral integrity or otherwise somebody has as a national leader to stand up and declare that he's going to do something contrary to the Constitution. I think that is really a low moment in our democracy. I think it's also a low moment for Raila Odinga. But I think what Raila Odinga is trying to do, he committed political suicide, like all leaders. Anywhere, if you look at the cases in Africa, to decide to boycott an election, that is an outright political suicide, what they call it harakiri. You have just committed suicide, and you go into oblivion. His own father resigned in 1966. He never came back again until 1992, and even then he was finished.
All right.
So resignation is a bad decision. I mean, boycotting an election or resigning from a political office without sufficient reason is a bad decision. Now, by being sworn in, he wants to soar up his fortunes at the expense of the Kenyan youth who will be victims of any action that would be taken to prevent such an event taking place.
All right,
Let me finish.
Steve, okay.
Let me finish. Don't, he'll have time, his moment. He'll have his moment, and I'll shut up. So the point one is making is the following. Decision to be sworn in by Raila Odinga is basically a total disregard of the integrity of this country. He has no moral ground. His supporters might think otherwise, but let's reason as a country. You cannot be sworn in when there's another leader who is in office and expect that nothing is going to happen. The moment you dare the country, then you are goading the country to war. And that is not leadership.
All right.
Now, coming to the issue of divisions within NASA, this is expected. Unlike Jubilee, NASA did not go to the election as one party. It went in as a conglomeration of parties that are autonomous in their own nature. That's why I prefer to call, I rarely use the word NASA because it has no legal essence in itself. I prefer to call ODM. Just like I had difficulties with the Jubilee before it became a party. I would talk about URP or TNA because these are the legal categories. Today, I think ODM is dictating. I don't know what Kalonzo and others are complaining about. It's the same problem we are finding in Nairobi between Sonko and Igade. Igade doesn't want to toe the line.
All right, Professor, I have to cut you short.
Yes.
We need to release our KTN Home viewers, and I'll thank you very much for staying with us and watching Morning Express. See you tomorrow, same place, same time. I'm Ashley Mazuri. All right, Steve, before we release our KTN Home viewers, you wanted to comment. You were saying, in fact. What is your opinion on this?
Prof's choice of words effectively demoralizes me, even as a co-panelist.
Okay.
We share the same philosophy in the sense that what the Constitution has ordained must be followed strictly. There is an African saying, you don't hit a man that is down.
Okay.
Even in terms of international law, you know, when an enemy has surrendered, you retreat. Or, if he's still on his feet, you use proportionate force. These are words that are nearly condescending and disparaging, and Raila has contributed a lot. Let me say this. The issue of the swearing in is dead on arrival.
Yes.
Because it lacks legal and constitutional foundation. But in terms of politics, it could mean that NASA, as I've always said, is keen on heightening its program of action intended to delegitimize or mock Uhuru's presidency for whatever reason, and they are entitled to do so. If I were Jubilee or the president, I would watch. There is only so far NASA can go. You know, that swearing in, until it happens, it may not even disclose a criminal offense. It could be a mock activity. I have seen memes, on social media where Raila should be sworn in using a dictionary. I mean, these are things, you know, swearing in that can raise stakes and heighten, of course, public agitation is if Raila manages to assemble what looks like state machinery or state officers to that ceremony. He manages to pull a judge from wherever, Kenyan judge. Of course, we know the swearing in must be done by the Chief Justice, and it already happened, pursuant to Article 141.
Yes.
But that activity, if it turns out to be a rally at Jacaranda grounds, where Raila is saying, Sasa nimeapishwa, I mean, that's a mockery statement. What I disagree with NASA's program is this, and I saw this during the electioneering period. Both NASA and Jubilee politicians, they have shown us that they have the established capacity to innovate outside the law.
Okay.
They want to follow the law when it's convenient for them. They can disregard the law when it's not convenient for them, and it is for you and I to deal with the consequences. We saw in Jubilee's time, they pushed relentlessly for electoral amendment laws. And we said it, you can change laws midway. But they pushed for them. We saw NASA manipulating Article 35 on freedom of assembly and association to stage demos that have been banned. When you know the proper way, if your demo has been unlawfully banned, you go to court, extract an order, barring the police from banning those demos. Because the police under Article 24, sub-Article 3, needed to demonstrate reasons why they need to ban those demos in the CBD.
All right.
Now, what we have seen now is an escalation of that indiscipline and indecency in our politics. I want to urge NASA leaders,
yes,
and especially their supporters, because supporters are you and I. The supporters should know that whatever NASA happens, or whatever NASA does, is only intended to maintain political relevance.
Okay.
Will not have any significant shift in the balance of power. Because to return to the ballot, NASA is saying we want election in 90 days, in all honesty, Article 146 must come into play. Vacancy in the office of the presidency. Either the president is impeached, the president is controlling both houses, that is an unlikely option,
okay,
an unlikely outcome. Either the president is dead, in which case the deputy takes over, that is also an unlikely outcome, seems to be in good health. Either the president resigns, the reason why he competed in 2 elections is to serve a full term, so resignation is an unlikely option. Okay. I don't see, dear Kenyans, the real possibility of an election before 2022.
All right.
Now, the last point is this. What Kenyans should be able to unpack from NASA movements, you see the squabbling around PSC positions, parliamentary positions. there is a doctrine in law, the doctrine of recognition through acquiescence. NASA is recognizing the legitimacy of Uhuru Kenyatta's presidency, and Kenya should know that.
All right.
When you accept to serve in parliament, parliament is part of the political wing of government, the national government. You accept parliamentary positions, you are infighting and squabbling around who should be the PSC chair, is it ODM, is it... All this, dear Kenyans, is evidence and enough testimony that NASA, in fact, their own statements,
yes,
Mudavadi and Kalonzo, and recently now, Wetangula said, my brother Mudavadi should let me face the knife first in 2022.
All right.
That is consistent with recognition.
Right.
And that is how it should be. And I think Jubilee should wear this victory with humility and not to overestimate.
All right. We're out of time.
I think I must just
Michael,
say
30 seconds. 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
30 seconds, briefly.
What is happening in NASA is normal,
yes,
in my view. You know, this is parties coming together and building up NASA. They have a number of MPs,
okay,
and it is fair that they shared some of these positions equally.
All right.
And I think on the issue of swearing in, unfortunately, as it may sound, I think people have been misled.
All right. Thank you, Michael Agwanda, Professor Kagwanja, and Steve Ogola for making time for joining us here on Morning Express. Always a pleasure having you. We take a short break, but when we come back with more.